Today we're going to talk about solving multi-step equations that involve proportions. So there are three steps that you need to follow when you're solving proportions. And remember, proportions are two fractions that are set equal to each other. So step one is to cross multiply. And remember, when you're cross multiplying, you're taking your a over b equals your c over d and taking a times d. And then that should be equal to b times c. So you're taking, again, this is sometimes referred to, you might have heard of the butterfly method. This is cross multiplication. So you're taking a times d and then b times c and solving. So step two is then to distribute if necessary. So there may be problems, like for example, you can see in 3 and 4, where we have an actual expression as part of the fraction. So that's when you're going to need to distribute, and I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And then step 3 is to solve. So I have 4 guided examples, and then you're going to practice on your own. So the first step is to cross multiply. So we're going to look at step or number 1, and step 1 is to cross multiply. So we're going to start with our 4 and cross multiply that with our 6. So I'm going to use my highlighter tool. You can just draw circles if you want. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to go ahead and do my 4 times 6, and then my 3 times x. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as 3 times x equals 4 times 6. Right, and then I have 3 times x, which is 3x. 4 times 6 is 24. There's nothing to distribute here, so I can go ahead and solve. Divide both parts by 3 to get x equals 8. Okay, and that's how you would solve a proportion problem. Now, there are proportion problems that have expressions in them, like 2, 3, and 4. So this one's going to involve that second step as well. So first step is to cross multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. I'm going to just show what I'm multiplying here. And then we can go ahead and do my 2 times n plus 5 equals 4 times 10. It does not matter which one you write first. I look for which one has the variable involved, and that's the one I like to write first. But if there's no variable, well, there will be a variable. It doesn't matter which side you use. If you have the variable on the right side instead of the left like I do, you're still going to get the same answer. So if you are multiplying and you have an expression, you need to write it in this format. So you need to have your expression in the parentheses and show that the number you're multiplying it by is on the outside. So then I can go ahead and do step 2 and distribute if necessary. So now I have 2n plus 10 equals, and then 4 times 10 is 40. Step 3 is to solve. This is a 2-step equation. You should know how to do this at this point. So I'm not going to talk you through the whole thing. 30, and then divide by 2. So your answer should be 15. Okay, so it's the same process as before for the solving. It's just we have a little bit of a weird setup to start with. So for number 3, step 1 is to cross multiply. So I'm going to go ahead and show what I'm going to multiply just to keep me organized. My variables up here, and I'm multiplying it by 5. So 5 times y minus 3 equals 2 times y. Okay, so this time I have 2 variables, and that's okay. We're going to go ahead and do step 2 to distribute first. So then I'm going to go ahead and pass my 5 out to both parts. All right, and then in this case, I do have variables on both sides, so I do need to get one to the other side. In my example here, I'm going to go ahead and move the 5y because I don't want to have to move the 15 or the negative 15 and have to deal with more steps. The shortest way would be to move the y to the other side. So I am going to subtract, in this case, my bigger of the 2, which is totally fine. Okay, so I have negative 15 equals a negative 3y. Then I can divide both sides by negative 3 to get y equals 5. Again, I would just rewrite it like that. So if your variable does end up on the right like mine did, you just flip them and it's the same thing. So those are the first three. Number 4, we have one that has the variable on both parts of the same fraction. And it's the same process as step 3, or number 3, sorry. So we're going to go ahead and first just cross multiply, step 1. And I am going to put my green one first. So 5 times 2k minus 3 equals 3 times k plus 9. So just make sure you're keeping your expressions in the parentheses, and then you shouldn't have any issues. Step 2 is distribute if necessary, which it is in both sides here. So 10k minus 15 equals 3k plus 27. All right, and now I'm on a multi-step equation with variables on both sides. So again, we're moving the variable. This time I am going to move the 3k because I have 2 parts here, so it doesn't matter which one I choose. I am going to move the 3k. So I have 7k minus 15 equals 27. At this point, it's a 2-step equation, so add 15 to both sides. 7k equals 42. Divide by 7. And k should be equal to 6. Okay, so that's how you solve these. So what you're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to show you the next couple of problems. You're going to pause the video, and you're going to try these problems. And then when you're ready, go ahead and unpause to see the answers. So pause your video now and try these problems on your own. Okay, so if you paused your video, you should have had a chance to try these problems. These are the answers and the work involved. So please check your work with what is here. So for number 1, you should have gotten x equals 6. For number 2, you should have had p equals 3. For number 3, you should have had w equals 4. For number 4, you should have had n equals negative 2. For number 5, you should have had a equals negative 9. And for 6, you should have had f equals 13. If you needed to see that work again, just rewind it and pause so you can compare your answers with what's there. So now that you've tried those ones, you're going to try these 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Pause the video, show your work on paper or a whiteboard, and then press play when you're ready to see the answers. Okay, so for 7, 8, 9, and 10, you should have had, for 7, m equals 5, 8, r equals negative 8, 9, v equals negative 2, and 10, k equals negative 14. Pause the video here, compare your work with your answer if you did not get the correct answer, and see where you went wrong. If you have any questions, please make sure you ask them through chat, through meets, whatever you need to do. All right, so then the last part is these 6 problems, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Pause the video again, try them on your own, press play when you're ready. All right, so we're going to go ahead and look at the answers for these ones. So 11, you should have had y equals 1. For 12, you should have had h equals negative 21. For 13, you should have had r equals 10. For 14, you should have had x equals 18. Pause the video now if you need to check 11 or 12. I am going to start scrolling down. For 15, you should have had negative 3 for u. And for number 16, you should have had x equals 3. So again, pause the video, check your work. If you have questions, please let me know.